Hello and welcome. My name is Sarah Jane Shangraw. I go by Sarah Jane and the pronouns she, her. I'm a senior facilitator for Studio B, and I'm glad to be with you today. I know we are gathering from various locations, or if you're watching a recording, you may be anywhere in the world. I would like to acknowledge that the land I have the privilege to work and live on, where I am right now, is the traditional territory of the Massachusetts and Pawtucket peoples. For many generations, they were keepers of this land, also known as Boston, Massachusetts. And to this land acknowledgement, I'd like to add a teaching acknowledgement. I have gratitude for those who passed mindfulness-based practices down through many generations. They were originally teaching these practices in the lands that we now call India, China, Tibet, Myanmar, Sri Lanka, and others. Today, we will practice some mindfulness-based self-care together, and I'll talk about how self-care can serve as a component of community care. While you may be new to Studio B or new to mindfulness or both, with this workshop, we invite you to start taking some time for self-care wherever you are in your journey. As you'll see, taking care of ourselves is the groundwork for taking care of those around us, including at home and work. So let's start with a short check-in. So with this check-in, I'm just going to invite you to get comfortable, and I'll cue some attentional focuses so that we can see if we can touch into some mindfulness. So I invite you to get comfortable right where you are, or you might want to change your position. You can be seated, you can lie down, you can sit up, you can stand up. Just know where you are and kind of feel your contact points, that area where you're touching what's below and there is some pressure that you can notice. You can have your eyes open or closed for this short mindfulness exercise or meditation. If you keep your eyes open, I just suggest a soft gaze on one object so that you prevent yourself from allowing the eyes to dart around. Okay, wherever you are, soften your hands. And notice your next inhale. It doesn't have to be improved or fixed. Just notice it as it is, and then notice the subsequent exhale. Keep noticing the next part of the breath that comes along, whether it's an inhale or a pause or an exhale. Get curious about the sensations in the body that are created by breathing. For you, they might be most obvious in the belly or chest or nostrils. Keep feeling the next breath that comes along. There are other sensations in the body as well. The pressure where you are sitting or lying back or standing. Temperature on the skin. I invite you to notice sensations as they arise here and there in the body. Sometimes there's an itch or some inner tingling, or maybe a sense of gripping or tension. And also we can notice if there are emotions present. Your emotional state might be mild, it might be turbulent, it could be conflicted, or could be gladness or sorrow. We are not trying to fix anything we find. We are checking in, each of us internally, with our body and our heart and now our mind. So let's see, what is the mind like? Is it busy with thinking? Is it focused? Is it sometimes distracted and sometimes focused? Are thoughts racing, or is there space between them? What is the flavor of the thoughts that the mind is producing right now? We're not trying to fix anything about our thinking or our minds. We're just checking in. This is how we are right now. We want the sense of being able to include anything that arises in our body, heart, and mind, physically, emotionally, and mentally. You might stay as you are for 3 more cycles of breath. And after your third exhale, lifting your gaze. So we're coming together. And now it's time to participate, check in relationally, using the chat for those of us who are together live. And if you are watching a recording later, you can just think through what you would be entering into the chat box. So please enter into the chat box one word that describes something you noticed about your body, heart, or mind. Or you can do a phrase or 3 words, one for the body, one for the heart, one for the mind. And I'm going to pause here and enter my own. So as folks enter the responses into the chat, I love to watch. And already we have 4 words: tingling, open, curious, distracted. And already you can notice the variety. But you can be sure that anything anyone would enter into the chat is something you've probably experienced before, even if you're not experiencing it now. And the same can be said for everybody else. And so what this meditation was meant to do was to encourage you to look into your inner environment mindfully. Be present with the breath and sensations, emotions, and thoughts. And what the relational exercise, where we share our words with each other, is meant to do is to normalize the broad bandwidth of human experience. We're never like each other in any given moment necessarily, and we're never like we were before either. So thank you for participating. So if I could see a raise of hands, and I can't see a raise of hands in this format, but if I could, and I asked who at some point was distracted during this mindfulness meditation, I bet every hand would go up. And I want to let you know that distraction is inherent in the experience of being human. We expect it to happen during meditation. If you've been a meditator for a while, you've no doubt learned various techniques to deal with that dance between distraction and focus. Or maybe you've built more focus and so you're less distractible than you used to be. But we learned so much at the beginning as meditators. We take care of ourselves by being with ourselves in this attentive, kind way. One of the first things we learn is that our minds are chaotic. And that's okay. Again, just let these words land. Distraction is inherent in the experience of being human. So really take that in. There's this allowing. I should have told you before our meditation, right? That distraction was not a problem. So we really do want to be kind to ourselves during meditation. And there's this whole body of meditations that are meant to train up self-kindness and kindness for others. And so I'd like to introduce one of those meditations now. I'm going to share my screen. So I will be guiding a loving kindness or metta meditation. So metta is not an English word, it's a Pali word, P-A-L-I. That's an ancient language, and it's the language in which a lot of meditation instructions were written down in over 2,000 years ago. And so sometimes folks call metta practice or metta meditation. We call it that instead of loving kindness. And some folks, instead of loving kindness, say friendliness. So in any case, there is this beloved body of meditations that are really perfect for self-care. And with metta practice, we use phrases. And here are some phrases. They vary. You've seen probably, may you be safe, healthy, and happy, or peaceful. You've seen that on bracelets and plaques that folks put on the wall. Those are all derivative of this practice. And just want to unpack these phrases for you. First of all, may I be safe. Originally, the safety that we're referring to is meant to be safety of the mind. In other words, free of judgment, self-blame, self-shame. May I feel whole is a phrase that I came up with based on may I be healthy. Because I work with people at various, with various states of health, it can be easier simply to refer to a sense of wholeness. So may I be, or may I feel whole, in the midst of this, or no matter what's happening. And then may I be peaceful. Oops, so sorry. May I be peaceful. The peace here is not like a hippie, vague peace. It's not an experience free of challenges. It's not totally smooth. What we mean by peace is an experience that's expansive and stable enough to be able to include anything that happens or arises. So rough and smooth can be held, but we aren't going to avoid the rough patches of life. So may I be peaceful is may I be able to hold or meet what comes. So we have another set of phrases that we'll be using in our meditation. After we go through those first three phrases, may I, may I, may I, we start to expand outward, and the objects of our loving kindness are now external. May we, because we're still including ourselves, may we be safe together. May we feel whole, and may we have peace with what will come. And so I invite you to get comfortable again. Lying down, standing up, seated, whatever posture helps you feel relaxed and stable. You want to be relaxed, but not casual. You want to feel stable and alert without being overly rigid. You might close your eyes or just keep a soft gaze. And just touch into the breath for a moment, not changing it, nothing to fix, just feel a few inhales and exhales. And then whisper inwardly, may I be safe. You can change the wording if you'd like. May I be safe. Say it a few times, maybe with a breath or two or three in between each repeated phrase. May I be safe. And then you might try, may I feel whole. Repeating it now and then, adjusting the pace and the words so you can really feel the intention behind the words. May I feel whole. You might try, may I be peaceful. And now we'll go to the second set of phrases. So bring to mind or heart space friends or family members who are so easy to be with, and also maybe some coworkers, and maybe in this group there are folks who are a little more challenging. You might also bring to mind a community you are a part of or a community you care about. As we go through the three phrases, I invite you to bring more and more people in to your circle of compassion. So whispering, may we be safe together. With all of these folks and communities in mind. May we be safe together. You might try, may we feel whole. See how that lands. Noticing any effects in the body, heart, or mind. May we feel whole. And finally, may we have peace with what will come. This isn't a wish to be separate from or complacent about challenges. Being able to meet them from a place of expansive stability. May we have peace with what will come. And then you might go back to your breath, letting go of the phrases. And then you might take one more inhale and exhale. And after that exhale, lifting your gaze, and we'll come back together. So I'm curious how you feel after the metta meditation. Sometimes when we first learn it, it can feel robotic, and other times we take to it. So either way, I hope you'll continue looking into it, practicing it. So self-care as community care is based on the premise that taking time on practices, such as we're doing together, is not selfish. I'd like to share my screen again. So I'm introducing the idea of a ripple effect, which I'm sure you know what that is, but we're applying it to self-care. And the ripple effect is what makes self-care community care. And so the idea here is that when we are taking up practices as self-care, whether it's meditation or movement, taking a walk, walking meditation, breath work, we're not navel gazing, right? We're not just totally internal. This isn't only for us. Now, when we're caught in too much to do, we may be unwilling to add a mindfulness or metta meditation or other self-care practice to our day. We have no time to pause. However, doing so, let me get back to the ripple side. Doing so really benefits us in psychological and mental ways, physical ways. It's good for the body, heart, and mind. And doing these practices allows us to proceed through all we must do with a clearer mind and a steadier mood. And this benefits those we interact with, the ripple effect. So many of the mindfulness-based self-care practices taught by Studio B are meant to calm us, downregulate our nervous system, balance our energy, stabilize us so that we may be at peace with whatever is arising in our environment. And when we are peaceful, our interactions are peaceful. So I'd like to share now with you a quote from a famous, beloved meditation teacher, Pema Chodron. If we want there to be peace in the world, we have to be brave enough to soften what is rigid in our hearts. She's referring to how mindfulness-based self-care practices can help us be the person who responds thoughtfully rather than reacts compulsively. And people learn they can relax in the presence of someone like this, and they in turn become more calm and peaceful in their interactions. So the members of a community, ultimately work, community, church, team, what have you, become more available to each other. There's less conflict. If you ask me why I practice mindfulness meditation, metta, yoga, I'll tell you it's because I feel more at home in myself. And the more at home I feel in myself, the more fully I can engage with others in the wider world. So at this point, I could take questions or guide one last practice. We can close out our time together in the quietude of a breath awareness, a mindfulness of breath practice. And so this might encourage us to be a little more focused. Our first meditation, our opening meditation, the check-in, I invited you to look at the breath and then the body and then the heart and then the mind. This one, what if we just stay with the breath for 1 minute? Let's see what that's like. So get comfortable, eyes closed or open, soft hands wherever they are. Notice how your next breath feels in the body. Track the sensations. So we aren't thinking about the breath, we're following sensations. Notice how the sensations change, the beginning, middle, and end of an inhale, are not the same. Same with the exhale. Please remember that distraction will happen, not a problem. When you realize you've been distracted, that's a very mindful moment. Mindful of that. Mindful that you've gone away, gone to the past or future. So use that spark of mindfulness to come back to the breath and reestablish a relationship to it, feeling it. Doesn't matter if you go away and come back 10 more times. Doesn't matter how long you've been away. You can always begin again. You might stay for one more cycle of breath, and after the exhale, lift your gaze. So I want to thank you very much for your kind attention and your interest and curiosity. For those of you who are beginning this journey, there will be resources available to you so that you can search the Studio B platform for any number of practices. There are hundreds of practices there from dozens of teachers. And if you have a company subscription, then you likely have special playlists just for you. So if you can access the chat right now, you'll see the links necessary to get you there. Also, there's information about the live 10-minute breaks at 9 a.m., 12 noon, and 3 p.m. Eastern Time every workday. So you can always reach out to hello@meetyourcenter.com to make sure you have access to the Studio B platform. And same time next week or another recording yet, there will be about stress relief. So take good care. May you be safe and healthy and peaceful.